Oye Mi Gente, YERRRR. Welcome back to a third season of Oye Mi Gente podcast. Thank you so much for sticking with us through another season. I'm eternally grateful to have you all tuning in. If this is your first time listening, welcome. I appreciate you as well. This is Viv Moran. I'm a multimedia artist from South Jamaica, Queens, and your favorite Tia. At this moment, I would like to start us off with our daily affirmation. I want to invite you all, my beautiful gods and goddesses, and everyone in between who tune in every week. And if this is your first time listening, welcome. I invite you to join in as well. Affirmation. I am abundant, glorious, beautiful, and I love myself. Now that we have charged our inner spirit crystals, I can now introduce our guests. I'm so excited for this. Today, we have writer, author, butch Tia extraordinaire, Gabby Rivera.
Hello.
Hi! Gabby Rivera is a Bronx-born queer Puerto Rican author on a mission to create the wildest, more fun stories ever. She's the first Latina to write for Marvel Comics, penning the solo series America about America Chavez, a portal-punching queer Latina powerhouse. Rivera's critically acclaimed debut novel, Juliet Takes a Breath, was called fucking outstanding by Roxane Gay and was republished in September 2019 by Penguin Random House. Currently, Gabby is the writer and creator of BB Free, a new original comic series with Boom Studios. When not writing, Gabby speaks on her experiences as a queer Puerto Rican from the Bronx, an LGBTQ youth advocate, and the importance of prioritizing joy in QTPOC communities at events across the country. Gabby makes magic on both coasts. Currently residing in California, she writes for all the sweet baby queers and her mom. Recently, Gabby launched a new podcast called Joy Revolution. Joy Revolution is the podcast that asks, how do you prioritize joy? Joy Revolution brings Gabby and her favorite revolutionary humans together to honor joy in a chaotic world. As a writer and speaker who focuses on queer Latinx joy, Gabby knows how vital it is to share our experiences and best practices in order to build that healing, abundant joy. And who better to have an in conversation with than people who very existence push against the chaos and uplift their communities. In this new podcast, Gabby asks how folks are rooting joy in their work, personal, and spiritual lives. The goal? To share all the good, bouncy, healing, revolutionary joy with all the humans who need it most. Every single one of us. Hi, Gabby. How are you feeling?
Hi, Viv. I'm so good. Thank you for that introduction. I'm happy to be here on Oye Mi Gente.
I'm happy that you're here with us. How is your spirit?
Oh my goodness. My spirit is worn but very strong and, abundant, right? Even no matter what we're going through, right? Our spirits are abundant.
Yes to that. Ashe to that.
Yeah.
To start the interview, I would like to offer you to take a deep breath with me. This interview may get a bit heavy, and I want to make sure I'm able to hold space for those feelings as well. Ready?
Oh,
take a deep breath. Okay, let's start. Today's episode is about joy. Joy, by definition, means a feeling of great pleasure and happiness. At this moment, we are currently going through a quarantine due to the COVID-19 virus, aka coronavirus. For some, finding joy.
I only laugh because I hear Cardi B
Yes,
saying it
yes!
every
Oh my
time.
God,
Like,
coronavirus!
Guess what, bitch? Coronavirus.
Man, finding joy is not easy. It's not
Mm.
like at this time. Every time I tune in into reruns of The Real, it gets interrupted by Cuomo telling us how many more people have died. Legit, every day is the same shit.
Yeah.
All day. So, how can we find joy when the day has already started out so gloomy? As a
Mm.
right? As a creative, I've been finding it so hard to produce, to keep creating, to keep providing content for my followers. Obviously, I know that I don't have to create, and I know that I don't have to produce content if I don't want to. I know I can just relax. But I also feel like I have a huge responsibility to my brand, to ponerme las pilas, put my big girl panties on, and do what I gotta do, which I have to admit is getting really exhausting, especially because I am a creative who lives with bipolar 2 disorder, which means that I experience more down than ups, which can last from weeks to months. This year, I've already had a mental breakdown for my 33rd birthday. At the moment, I'm also going through cabin fever. I miss my mom. She lives in Queens, which, by the way, is also the epicenter for the virus in NYC. And I'm here in Newark. It's fucking OD, like dead ass. So I'd missed all this BS. How can we find joy? Gabby, tell us about joy. What does that look like for you?
Oy. Well, I mean, you opens with joy as a definition being like an immense feeling of pleasure. And I don't think that that's necessarily like my definition of joy. I feel like my definition of joy is an immense moment of like reckoning and moving towards healing. So in a moment where you are like, I must heal, I'm going to heal myself. I love myself. I see the pain in the world. I feel the pain and the violence of the world. I acknowledge any part that I play in it, and I also hold others accountable. In this, I build community. I love my community. Whatever that feeling is, whatever that understanding, that's my joy. That's the joy that I talk about on Joy Revolution. And so, yeah, I feel like also white supremacy informs our understanding of joy, right? So for white people, for white supremacy, joy has to be something tangible, easy, associated with buying things, associated with wealth, associated with like white spirituality, yoga, Lululemon bullcrap,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So I can understand why in a moment like this, it's like, well, that I don't have access to that joy. And it's like, well, who wants that joy? We don't want that joy.
For real.
We
For
don't
real.
want that joy. That's not joy that's rooted in community. That's not joy that's rooted in healing and coming together. And so, you know, when I was thinking about this podcast, it was like 2 or 3 years ago. So there was no COVID crisis, but we're in it now. And to me, it's like, well, in a moment where everything is out of my control, if I can feel my heartbeat and I can take a minute to like find a center, that center of myself, if I can take a minute to clear my altar and wipe it down and add offerings to it, if I can take a minute to be in community with someone that I love or someone that needs me, like, that is building joy, right? I don't think joy is something you just like fill up and no, I have it. It's like what we can build together and what we can build internally to just like you open the show with, I love myself and affirmations, you know, like that is you just on your own building that joy.
Yeah.
and it is exhausting. We can't do it with alone, and if you're a nurse or someone in like the front lines of this, right, or at the grocery store working, like, I'm sure joy is the last thing on your mind, and it's probably terrifying right now. And so as a community member, how can I offer you some of what I have, right? Like, how can I, just in supporting you, like, offer you joy that you may not have? Mm-hmm. And in that moment, joy could be peace of mind that lunch is there. Joy could be peace of mind that, like, you dropped off the lemon and ginger and garlic that I didn't have, and now I can make like a tea or sopita. You know what I mean? Like, our mutual friend Vanessa Martir is running around doing sopita ministries,
for
like
real, and planting. Oh my God, when I saw her planting, I went out to Walmart to get seeds.
Yeah, listen, like, many of us with all our different intersecting identities. I'm Puerto Rican, like you said. I'm the butch tia. I'm masculine presenting. I come from the Bronx. I'm chubby, queer, all these things, right? There's all of our communities have always been under siege, and yet we have still been joyful.
Yes.
And so I am, in my own way, trying to like really just lean towards it and keep myself open and talk to other folks about it.
That's such a beautiful way of putting it. Like, I feel like, with people going through whatever type of, mental health disorder is, joy, I feel, is revolutionary for us if we're able to find it in like the littlest corner and make it grow. Not just like with whatever we decide to attract ourselves, but also within ourselves, without focusing so much on the bad feelings, the negative feelings, the feelings that eat ourselves up and tell us that we're not good enough.
Yeah. I mean, those feelings, even for me, right, those feelings are just here. Mm-hmm. When we were talking about promoting the Joy Revolution podcast, my producer, Kat, was like, make a video and invite people in. And if you look at the trailer, I'm like bursting with all this joy. I'm like, hello, I'm Gabby, be my friend, but right now I'm just like, whew.
That was a lot.
Woo, I can't do that in the same way. So what does joy look like in this moment? You know what I mean? Is joy just me sitting here and listening to a friend of mine be like, I'm worried, I'm by myself, and we sit there together, and maybe again, it's not all like jumping and skipping, but you holding each other in that moment. Mm-hmm.
Definitely. I've known you for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
To me, you have always been such a happy person, full of life. Like, if we had to redefine joy and happiness and someone that's full of life, your picture and your smile would be right there. It's like fucking contagious. It's contagious.
Oy.
What's the difference between the joy you felt then to the joy you feel now?
There's a lot of levels of it, right? So 2019 was a very good year for me. A lot of healing that I didn't even know that I had to do just happened, right? Like you said, Penguin republished my book in September, so I went on a book tour. Never in my life did I think that would be a thing, right? And it's not necessarily the path that we're offered as, Latinas or as queer people, or, the idea that you can be an author and a writer. And so a lot of that like imposter syndrome and a lot of that like fear of never being enough just kind of washed away. It was like, yo, let yourself have this. let yourself respect the work that you've put into for your whole life to get here, and you are enough. That's it. And so like all of that healing and abundance, that is there, right? That's in that video. So that was 2019, just letting myself accept the blessings, right? Accept whatever the universe is offering me, and accept that I have worked hard, right? And it's like 2020, and we're in this COVID crisis, and we're all on lockdown, and people are dying. And this is the first time any of us, I mean, no, I don't want to say that. This is the first time I think collectively as Americans, quote unquote, that this has happened here in this country, right? So there's this shock and grief and uncertainty and mistrust, and it's just a lot to take in. It's like, how do you experience joy when you're in shock?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so like I think this joy is just kind of processing that shock and being like, again, allowing the spirit to have that, and allowing your brain and your mind to be in whatever mode they need to be. You know, like there's like mamitas in my world that are like on the go, right? They got their schedule, they got their work, they're Zooming, they're conferencing, they are hitting their goals. I've got some writer friends that are like, I am stuck in the inertia of the experience of life. You know, like there's folks that are sick, there's folks that are like sad, pissed. We don't know what to do with ourselves.
Yeah.
And our experiences of joy, like, we have to let ourselves know that they are going to shift.
Yeah.
There are going to be times where you just don't have it. And that's kind of what, like, I'm hoping that the podcast offers is like, well, you don't have it. We have it on Joy Revolution. And we want to share it with you. And me and people that I love, that I care about, we're not trying to sell you nothing. We're not trying to make you feel inadequate like some goop page or something like that. This is just two people of color talking to each other about how we have joy in our lives with everything we're going through.
Yeah. And I feel like
we giggle a little bit about it too, you know?
Yes!
Like together we can hit that.
Yeah. When I saw the lineup, I was just like, I feel that this is the type of representation that we need. You know, just like you said, you never imagine yourself to go on this book tour, have a second publishing and go on a book tour. Those things are not offered to us. They don't tell us that someone like you, someone like me can go out and do that, because all the book tours that I've seen being publicized are all Karens and Beckys talking about self-help. And I'm like, man, Karen, how are you going to help me, a chubby immigrant Latina who has never seen representation in the
Karen
media?
don't want to help you. She wants to go to your country, eat your food, and then buy up all your family's land and call it an Airbnb. Okay?
Yo,
that's all
facts.
Karen is interested in.
Facts. And learning about your podcast, I'm like, oh my God, we need this, because I feel like I was telling my girlfriend when I put you guys, you know, together, and I'm like, you need to know the Gabby that I know. The Gabby that will start laughing and you could be feeling like shit, and her laughter is just so contagious that it pretty much takes you over. And when you hear her talk and then you read her stories, I guarantee you it is like she is right next to you, reading it to you. Your voice is so powerful. And I feel like Joy Revolution is going to be so powerful. They say that the revolution will not be televised. It is being podcasted. It is
Hey,
being
thank you.
podcasted right
You are
now.
those affirmations. I'm gonna accept them. I accept that energy, those affirmations, that love.
Yo, you're fucking incredible. What you're doing is incredible. Your stories are fucking incredible. And right now there are baby queers listening to us and wondering like, fuck, I don't feel complete. I don't feel seen. How can I exist? And I hope that what we're trying to build, they can be like, yo, I exist. I can be. I feel seen. Can you tell me about a time in your life where you were challenged to find joy? What was that like?
I mean, there have definitely been several times. Um, there's been so many times, right? Like I've talked about, my best friend passing away like 10 plus years ago. And that was like a major moment in my life. Um, where she passed away tragically and suddenly. And, it was one of those things where like her death was in the news and just like demolished everything. And so like you talk about my laugh, right? Like the laugh that you've heard that I have. And like, I feel like for almost a year, I didn't laugh. And I thought like that like scared me so much inside. Like I'm grieving and I was so scared because I literally was like, I think it's gone. Like I think whatever is in me that used to think things were funny is gone because I just didn't laugh. I was wrecked. And so her passing, she was also a light in the LGBT community in Chicago. Her name was Christina Santiago. She's the dedication in Juliet Takes a Breath. She always worked as an advocate for lesbians and mothers, Latinas, with health and finding homes and just all of that sort of stuff. And when she passed away, I really had to reckon with myself and realize that I was not living into my light and that her passing, like I needed to offer purpose to my grief. I needed to offer a change and healing to myself and to the grief that I had. And it was in that, like, it was either like, I was either going to heal myself or I wasn't going to survive her passing away, compounded with a million other things that were going on in my life and at the time. And so I just like wrapped my arms around my body and was like, no, we are going to live. We're going to live for her. We're going to live for us. We are going to hold tight to the body and the spirit and like find our way, find my way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And in those moments, in those really dark moments, the only joy that I had was in the support and the love of other people. My friends that would just pick me up because I was like crying and couldn't find my way to the subway after work because I was just wrecked with grief. My mom who just had a plate of food for me. I feel like every night when Christina passed away, like in the care and the offerings of support from other people, like those are those small, vital joys,
Yeah, grief definitely is really powerful, and I feel like there are different ways that it comes at us. Like losing the laughter or sleeping all the time. One of the things for me is like when grief hits me, I sleep. and I can sleep for hours and I can sleep for days. And I feel like sometimes losing someone is bittersweet. And if Christina was such a light for you, that light was the joy. That light was the joy. From panic attacks, acute anxiety, depression, to your search for joy, what lessons have you learned along the way?
Ooh, this is such a good question. This is such a good podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah, I feel really like supported. Oh my goodness, the lessons that I have learned. One is that really focusing on the body is so helpful. In therapy and through being in community with other queer folks, like if I'm feeling out of sorts, like a simple thing like taking a shower or putting on an essential oil or just literally holding myself or wrapping myself in a blanket, that immediate sense of security can change my whole mood, can lift me up, right? So, and even this one act, a lot of times I just put my hands over my heart and I hold it there and I breathe. And it's like, if the only thing I can, quote unquote, control in this moment is this, that's enough. I am here. I am living. And deep. As a, like, Puerto Ricans, we always running at like a 42. Everyone else is kind of at like an 11. And Puerto Ricans, we just ready to fight, ready to tell you a story, ready to tell you what we found on sale. You know what I mean?
Yo,
like,
that's the fucking truth.
And so to just kind of bring it to the body has been a beautiful thing. And to talk in the affirmative to the body, to the spirit, has been wildly beautiful. And it's hippie as hell, but I take the time to be like, thank you, lungs. Thank you, eyes. Thank you, blood. Thank you, organs. Like just really doing shit that makes me love myself.
Yeah, because
go ahead.
Gratitude in its own, like gratitude for like the littlest things, even if it is about ourselves, I feel there's joy right there. Because sometimes it is so hard. You may not love what you look like currently. You may not like who you are or what you morphed into, but in that instance of even putting on an outfit and it's like, oh, I like the way I look.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's joy. That's fucking joy.
Yes. Oh, and that reminds me of one of my like earlier, like, so when I was in my 20s, we either didn't have or I wasn't in communities where I could learn like queer terminology for like body dysmorphia. Mm-hmm. So in my head, I just had like these major quote unquote freakouts anytime I had to get dressed to go somewhere, because what I needed to see myself as, I couldn't express. I was in between kind of like a femme mask stage, trying to conform still to what my family needed my gender to look like, and trying to still fit this antiquated idea of what a woman looks like. And I would have these massive just like breakdowns, like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, can't talk to you, I'm not going, like. And now I have language, and now I can tell myself, like, what do you need to just have a beautiful day, a beautiful night out? What is going to make you feel comfortable? What is going to make you feel like you're having fun? Like, not trying to like fit into anybody's expectation, you know? Like, I think a lesson with joy is that the more I just do what feels right in my heart, the more I have access to joy, because I'm not being crushed by somebody else's bullshit.
Yeah.
Right? Like, at the end of the day, it's bullshit.
Pretty much. Like, my girlfriend always says, hurt people hurt people. And I feel like those that hurt other the most is just pure projection of not finding the love within themselves.
Yeah.